the everlasting God, the creator of all the earth, who never grows weak or weary. No one can measure the depths of his understanding. He gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. Even youths will become weak and tired, and young men will fall in exhaustion. But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They'll soar high on wings like eagles. They'll run and not grow weary. They'll walk and not faint.
Hello, everyone. This weekend we celebrate Palm Sunday, which of course means next Sunday is Easter. And what a great story Easter is, because Jesus pretty much changed everything when he died on the cross and then came back to life. It's like he turned the whole world upside down. And he gave us a greatest example of humility, which is what we are going to be learning about in the month of April. Humility is putting others first by giving up what you think you deserve. So, what does humility look like for us? When is the last time that you let somebody else pick what your family was going to have for dinner? Or what about taking the second controller and letting someone else pick the stage on Smash Brothers? Don't you always want to have first controller? Or when you're playing a board game with your family or friends, you don't always have to be the one to pick the game. You can show humility and let others pick the game that they want to play. Having humility or being humble is kind of an upside down way to live. It's a lot more common, and I think a lot easier, to put yourself first. But Jesus came and he flipped that whole notion on its head, and he showed what it looks like to put others first, because he came to serve, not to be served. You know, right before Jesus gave his life for us on the cross, he was at the height of his popularity. People followed him everywhere, wanting to hear his teaching or maybe experience a miracle. The religious leaders, however, had had enough of Jesus, and for months they were plotting to bring an end to this movement and to silence him once and for all. Now we know that Passover was coming, and Passover was a holiday when everyone remembered how long ago God had rescued his people from slavery in Egypt. And in the few days before this great feast and celebration, Jesus entered Jerusalem. Crowds of people were there to cheer for him. They waved palm branches and they yelled out, "Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord." But things changed a lot over the course of the week. Jesus knew that he had to go through with everything that was coming, no matter how difficult it would be. He knew that he had to face it head on without defending himself. And Jesus chose the way of humility. Now, the Bible tells us that Jesus gathered his closest friends so that they could celebrate the Passover meal together. And after he shared that meal with them, he led them on a walk outside of the city to the Mount of Olives. And the Bible tells us that Jesus' heart was very heavy because he knew what he was about to go through. When they reached the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus asked the disciples to stay there while he went off to pray. And 3 times Jesus went off to pray, and 3 times when he came back to the disciples, he found them asleep. By then, a large crowd had arrived, and the people arrested Jesus, and they took him away. And Jesus' closest friends, the ones who promised that they would go with him through everything, ran away. Jesus had chosen a path of humility that would bring life for everyone, but one that would cost him everything. When he was praying in the garden, he prayed to God and asked if all of this could go away. But in the end, Jesus gave up what he wanted for the sake of God's bigger plan. He chose to put us first when he allowed himself to be arrested, and eventually when he died on the cross to take the punishment for our sins. Jesus gave us the ultimate example of humility. He put us first. What a great, great example of humility. And you and I can choose to follow his example today. As our bottom line reminds us, and it's pretty short, but it's pretty powerful, and it simply says, put others first. And that means putting someone else's needs above your own. It means giving someone else what they want and not demanding that you get all the time what you want. And it's not always easy, but with God's help, you can choose to put others first. Be sure to check us out on Facebook. You can find us at Faith Outfitters. We will have our memory verse for the month there, and we will continue to have things each day to help reinforce this idea of humility. So have a blessed day and a blessed week leading up to Easter next Sunday.